Let's bring in Peter Morici. He's a former U.S. International Trade Commission chief and an economist and business professor at the University of Maryland. Peter, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Take a look at what the marginal tax rates are going to do if these Trump tax cuts expire up and down the tax income brackets. You've got higher taxes at every level. Do you think Republicans will just extend this, or will there be changes? How does Congress deal with this?
Well, I think they'll be by and large extended and perhaps supplemented in some places because, you know, the president-elect has talked about, for example, exempting tips. There's a terrible double taxation of 35% of most people's Social Security benefits. They pay taxes when they contribute the money, and then they pay taxes again when they get it back, which is absurd. So some of those things may be addressed as well. But let's face it, there's limits with the federal deficit being as large as it is. We have to be careful that we don't raise taxes by letting these benefits lapse, but we don't cut them too much more because of the deficit problem. You know, Elon Musk, I wish him well, but he's not going to be able to find hundreds of billions of dollars in time for large tax cuts in 2026.
I mean, it seems like there are a few options here. You extend the tax cuts, you add some of the other tax provisions like no taxes on tips and all the other things. You either blow up the deficit or you look towards things like entitlements, right?
Absolutely. Entitlements could be cut by quite a bit. Joe Biden, through executive order, added hundreds of billions of dollars in entitlements costs by stretching eligibility standards and increasing benefits. Also, there's areas like the electric vehicle tax credit, which is absurd. The thing's exploding out of sight. So there's lots of things that the president could do just by, you know, signing a piece of paper. Of course, what we learned with the doc is that, you know, one president can make something legal, then the next president can try to repeal the order, and you find a progressive judge who thinks, you know, money grows on trees or, you know, could be invented or what have you, and blocks him. So we'll just have to see how that develops. But it's very important that these be extended. Economic recoveries, we've been benefiting from these tax cuts for 8 years. This is what's driven growth at 2.5% a year, as opposed to Barack Obama's less than 2% a year. And if we let them lapse, we probably will go into a recession. And I guess the Democrats would cheer that, you know, because it would help them out in the next election. It's very, very dangerous if these things are not extended.
Some Republicans are looking to do a little bit more. Here's Senator Kevin Cramer.
I love one of the first ideas I read about, of course, is the simplification of the tax code. And therein lies one of our first opportunities with the new Congress through budget reconciliation. The simplification of the tax code could be the greatest gift to the economy and to every taxpayer in this country, and certainly to business.
So, Peter, that was a goal 7 years ago, and then Congress is doing this, and we got the tax system that we have now, albeit with lower rates, but still not exactly the most simple thing on the planet. Is Congress capable of simplifying the tax code?
It's very difficult because the Congress has become accustomed to using the tax code to incentivize particular kinds of behavior. For example, we want companies to undertake more R&D, so we give them an R&D tax credit. Then we have to write eligibility requirements for it and things of that nature. You know, we want to encourage manufacturing, so we'll have accelerated depreciation on equipment and what have you. It's easier said than done. My feeling is that we're in a very good spot when it comes to corporate taxes right now. We have increased the level of investment thanks to the corporate tax cuts we got in 2016. Those are permanent. We are very competitive now vis-a-vis other industrialized countries like Japan, Germany, and so forth. You know, we have very favorable rates. My feeling is that the corporate code is pretty good where it is. There may be some things to correct, but it's pretty good where it is. The primary focus should be on making the personal income taxes as fair as we can be, while still recognizing the financial requirements of the nation. And the best way to do that is to finally go after the 60% of the federal budget, actually 63, that's entitlements swollen out of control, and to start to go after a lot of what has become pretty well graft. And that is we let universities charge whatever they want. Students borrow whatever they need. And then we get a Democratic president that forgives it. You know, we need to encourage vocational education, and we need to look at moving the aid we send to universities into those activities.
Yeah. Peter Morici, as always, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.